What would you give up to save a life? Your phone, your wallet, your last dollar? But what if you had nothing left except the one thing keeping you alive? Tonight's story will make you question everything you think you know about sacrifice and show you how one moment of impossible kindness sparked a revolution of hope. Hi, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Humanity Tales. Today's story will touch your heart in ways you never imagined. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell because you won't want to miss what happens next. Chicago winters had always been brutal, but this December night in 2023 was different. The meteorologists called it a once-in-a-century polar vortex. Wind chills plummeted to minus 40 degrees. The city declared a state of emergency, opening warming centers and urging everyone to stay indoors. Everyone, that is, who had somewhere to go. Jack Morrison pulled his thin wool blanket tighter around his shoulders, watching his breath form clouds in the frigid air. The abandoned bookstore's doorway on Michigan Avenue offered little protection, but it was better than nothing. At 45, with graying temples and weathered hands that told stories of better days, Jack didn't look like someone you'd expect to find homeless. Then again, homelessness rarely looked like what people expected. 5 years ago, he'd been a construction site supervisor, with 20 years of experience and a reputation for running the safest projects in the city. He had a comfortable apartment in Lincoln Park, season tickets to the Bears, and dreams of starting his own company. Then came the accident. A support beam that wasn't properly secured, a desperate dive to push a young worker out of the way, and 6 months of surgeries that drained his savings and maxed out his insurance. By the time he could work again, the recession had hit. Construction projects dried up overnight. His workers' compensation claim got tied up in legal battles. The medical bills kept coming. One missed rent payment became 2, then 3. Before he knew it, Jack had joined the invisible people who haunted Chicago's streets, the ones hurrying pedestrians pretended not to see. Tonight, though, invisibility felt like a death sentence. The temperature was still dropping. Ice crystals formed on his eyelashes. His fingers had long since gone numb, despite being tucked into the pockets of his threadbare coat. The blanket found in a church donation bin last month was the only thing standing between him and hypothermia. The first whimper was so faint he thought he'd imagined it. The second made him lift his head, scanning the darkness. There, in the dim glow of a distant streetlight, he saw movement. A small dog, maybe 20 pounds soaking wet, trembled against the building's brick wall. Its fur, matted with ice and snow, did little to protect it from the brutal cold. One back leg was held at an awkward angle, explaining why it hadn't found better shelter. The dog's eyes met Jack's, and in that moment, something profound passed between them. Jack saw in those eyes the same thing he saw in his own reflection, the question of why the world had turned its back, the desperate hope for kindness in a seemingly cruel universe. "Hey there, little one," Jack whispered, his voice rough from disuse. The dog's head snapped up, eyes wide with equal parts hope and fear. It tried to stand but stumbled, letting out another pitiful whimper that seemed to pierce straight through Jack's heart. Jack looked down at his blanket, his only protection against the killing cold. Without it, the night would be dangerous, perhaps deadly. The rational part of his brain screamed at him to stay put, to prioritize his own survival. But something stronger, something his mother had instilled in him long ago, was already moving his hands. The cold hit him like a physical blow as he unwrapped the blanket. His teeth began chattering immediately as he slowly approached the dog, speaking in low, soothing tones. "Easy now. I'm not going to hurt you. Just trying to help." The dog watched warily but didn't retreat as Jack carefully draped the blanket over its small body. Within minutes, the shivering bundle had curled into a tight ball, letting out a soft sigh that seemed to carry all the weight of its struggles. Jack retreated to his doorway, rubbing his arms vigorously. "Well," he said to himself, "guess we'll both just have to make it through somehow." He tucked his hands into his armpits and leaned back against the cold brick, preparing for the longest night he'd faced in years. If this act of kindness is touching your heart so far, hit that like button and let me know in the comments if you've ever sacrificed something important to help another in need. Dawn broke with the sound of footsteps crunching in the snow. Jack blinked away the frost that had gathered on his eyelashes to find a well-dressed woman standing before him, her silver hair swept back elegantly. Behind her, a man in veterinary scrubs was carefully examining the dog, still wrapped in Jack's blanket. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen," the woman said, her voice gentle but firm. "I run the Second Chance Animal Foundation across the street. Our security cameras caught what you did last night." She paused, studying Jack's face. "Would you be interested in a job?" Jack stared at her, wondering if he was hallucinating from the cold. "A job? We need a caretaker for our shelter animals. Someone patient, someone kind," she smiled. "Someone who would give their only blanket to a stray dog on the coldest night of the year. The position comes with housing. The apartment above the shelter is empty." Tears froze on Jack's cheeks before they could fall. But this was just the beginning. What happened next would transform not just one life, but an entire community. Within 6 months, Jack had not only found his calling working with abandoned animals, but he'd also started a revolutionary program at Second Chance. People experiencing homelessness could volunteer at the shelter, gaining job skills and references while helping care for the animals. The program, called Healing Hearts Together, recognized that both homeless individuals and abandoned animals shared a common need: the chance to be seen, valued, and given purpose. The little dog, whom Jack named Lucky, became the shelter's unofficial mascot. His injured leg, though permanently damaged, didn't stop him from greeting every visitor with enthusiastic warmth. Their story, captured by those security cameras, went viral when the foundation shared it. Donations poured in, allowing them to expand their programs and help more people and animals in need. Local businesses began to take notice. A nearby veterinary clinic offered free training for program participants interested in becoming vet assistants. A construction company, ironically the same one that had once employed Jack, started an apprenticeship program. Other shelters across the country began reaching out, asking how they could implement similar programs, but the most remarkable transformations happened on a personal level. Mark, a former accountant who'd lost everything to addiction, found sobriety and purpose caring for elderly cats. Maria, a domestic violence survivor, regained her confidence working with abused dogs. Each person who came through the program had their own story of healing, their own journey back to hope. 1 year later, Jack stood at a podium, Lucky by his side, addressing a crowd at the opening of the shelter's new wing, a transitional housing unit for homeless individuals willing to help care for the animals. His voice shook as he spoke. "Someone once asked me why I gave away my only blanket that night. The truth is, I didn't give it away. I shared it, and in return, I got to share in something much bigger than myself. Sometimes, the thing you think you can't afford to give up becomes the very thing that saves you." Dr. Chen watched from the front row, smiling through tears. Her foundation had always helped animals, but Jack had shown her how to help heal the human heart at the same time. The program had now helped over 500 people find their way home, while giving countless animals a second chance at life. Today, the frayed blanket hangs in a frame on the shelter's wall. A reminder that even in our darkest moments, choosing kindness can light a path forward, not just for ourselves, but for an entire community. Beneath it, a simple plaque reads, "Sometimes the smallest act of kindness can create the biggest changes." As winter settles over Chicago once again, the lights of Second Chance burn bright against the darkness. Inside, people who had once been strangers share stories and hope, while the animals in their care offer unconditional love in return. And every night, before leaving his office, Jack stops to look at that framed blanket, remembering the choice that changed everything. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Your comments matter. Tell us about a time when kindness changed your life. And remember to subscribe for more stories that remind us of the extraordinary power of ordinary kindness. Until next time, this is Humanity Tales, reminding you that in a world where you can be anything, be kind.